Today's lesson is all about your irons and how you're going to hit better iron shots, because there's nothing worse when we get a nice drive down the fairway and all of a sudden one of these lets us down. Let's get stuck into the lesson and find out how you're going to do it. So one of the things that I hear a lot about when I give lessons or I hear golfers talking about their iron play, they're trying to almost do less to do more, which almost makes sense, but they get a little bit too extreme on that factor. What I mean by that is that as we get to this, and I would imagine that as you're watching this now, you'll probably think this is me as I go through this. As I stand and I actually think, right, well, I've got a 7-iron now, I'm going to hit it 150 yards, that's my 7-iron. As I actually get into the golf ball, all of a sudden I start to get these negative thoughts about the movement that I want. Don't move too much, don't lift my head, don't do this, don't. And what I tend to see from a lot of players is that as they go through, it almost looks like we've gone rigid on the golf ball, we look like we're made of cement and we've not got any fluidity as we actually stand to it. So we then get, and we get that horrible shot. You can see where I've actually impacted the ground here. The ball was in line with this cane, and I've given it a good 3 or 4 inches before the golf ball. And a lot of that, like I say, is all down to this fact that as we stand over to it, we tense up, we think about not moving, we don't want to do too much, and it doesn't work. It doesn't help us hit better iron shots. We've got to think that the golf swing's a motion. We want to get the golf club moving around our body at speed. We want to be working weight throughout our body and shifting it. And this is a real simple thing that you can do to help you start this process off. Now, even without a golf ball here, what I would like you to do is get close together with your feet, like here. Like I've just set up my little T section here for allowing me to help with my aim and also know where the middle of my body is. But now with the middle of my body placed over this cane here and my feet together, I want you to almost shuffle into your setup whilst making some golf swings. So by doing this and actually just getting feeling of a little bit of motion, we'll start to actually sync it up there. And notice that as I did those few there, I actually went out of sync. So as I was coming down in the downswing, I actually moved my right foot backwards there, which isn't what we want. What we want to be able to do is that as we go back, we move the right foot, and then as I go down, I move my left foot forward as a right-handed golfer. So I get back and 2, back and 2. And what this is starting to do, I'm just having almost a little dance with myself here, but I'm starting to transfer my weight. Instead of that first swing, if we just see that again, everything was rigid, it was all arms, and the body was so locked up because I was making sure I didn't make any movement, I don't want to hit a bad shot, so I got rigid. As where this nice little drill that I'm doing here, back and forth, and back and forth, and just having these little steps with my feet, it's actually getting me shifting the weight and getting me turning towards my target there. Now, if you're confident and you feel like you've got a good rhythm going, what I would suggest is that you then peg one up. So get your 7-iron out, give yourself a T-peg there, just with a little bit of ease on it because it is a hard drill to start off with. But what we want to try and see is that we would have a couple, and I'm starting to get the rhythm, and I'm starting to get the rhythm, and then maybe as I get into a fuller swing, about 60% of my speed, I'm actually going to click this one off. And we can see now I've finished more towards my lead side, and it was a much better golf shot, even though I didn't quite strike it out of where I wanted to. Yes, it was on a tee, but it actually got away from me because I was actually getting a little bit of freedom and a little bit of fluidity about my motion, instead of standing there thinking, don't mess this up, don't do anything, don't lift your head, make sure you don't move your body, and doing nothing. I've actually got that motion working, so I've started to see that as I'm going through it, I'm actually getting the motion I want. So that would be tip 1. Don't get rock solid, don't make those swings where everything is shut down. The golf swing's a motion. Start to actually use a little bit of motion and feel like you're shifting towards your target and finishing looking down towards your target. The second thing I want you to do when you get into an iron swing, as we watch golfers on TV, we never see swings that are as long as the driver swing. So if we think Rory McIlroy, let's say, as he gets a driver out versus a 7-iron, we never see a swing that looks as long because he's trying to control it. You think, this iron here, I'm all about striking it. I've got to make sure I'm bottoming out at the right time. I want to get ball and turf, and also I want to try and hit it close to the flag. Now, depending on skill level, it might be that we make sure we get our strike and we make sure that we hit the green. We don't have to necessarily get it as close as possible to the flag, but I want to eradicate that duff shot that we saw earlier on. And one of the great drills that can help you do this, I'd like to see that everyone would have a little bit more of a tighter and compact swing. So for some players, what we would see is, like I say, as we go into a driver swing, we see a big turn and we see a long backswing here, and then I really unwind and I let it go. If we watch a tour player with an iron, we would see more of a compact sort of 3/4 like swing as we get through. And a great way to do this, if you took a spare glove and you just popped it under your right armpit for a right-handed golfer, left if you're left, what I would want to see is that as I get up now, I would feel like I'm using my torso a little bit more, making this the engine of the golf swing, as opposed to my arms, because as I do that, I've dropped the glove and I've not turned my torso. So what I want to be able to do, fold this back under, get it under here, I want to feel like I'm just giving it a little squeeze, and then I make a bit more of a turn with my body, and I finish a little bit more 3/4 here. And now I've got a nice compact swing. And what this will able to do, like I say, it'll get the engine of the golf swing, the torso, working a little bit more. So tie that into that motion that we've got from the first little drill that we had. We add in the feeling of keeping tight under that elbow, under that armpit, and turning the body. Now I'm going to be compact, and we would see a lot of soft finishes here as we would watch TV and see all the best golfers. So nice and smooth, we get in, we pinch that armpit, we feel like the torso is going to turn a little bit more, and as we see a really nice strike, really crisp, coming close here, have a look at this one actually, we can see where the tee was and where my divot is. I've got motion, I've got turning, and now I'm starting to bottom out at the right time and get that good strike. So the third and final thing, this is more of a strategy tip. As we get out onto the golf course, what I want you to try and do is be a little bit more controlled. If you're going to hit better iron shots, I see players, when I play my social golf with my friends, 18 handicap and above, and they're aiming at flags that are tight left on the green, tight right, really front. They don't know the yardages, and they're aiming at flags that don't really have the ability to control the golf ball too. So once you've actually got your strike going, once you feel like you've got a little bit of motion, try and play for a little bit more of the center of the green. Think of the percentage shot. If you were just going to get that on that green, you're probably going to have a 2-putt. If you go for a flag where you can't quite control the golf ball and you miss it a couple of yards left and the pin's tight left, all of a sudden you leave yourself with a really tricky up and down. So make sure when you've got your irons out, don't just be a flag zombie. Make sure you play a little bit more of the percentage shot, build in those 2 tips to build your strike up, and you'll see that you start hitting more greens and you will start hitting better iron shots. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, remember, hit that subscribe button down below. I want you to get better at golf. You're going to do it with your free lessons on the channel, and I'll see you in your next lesson.